to ask why, right? And I think what we're going to hear and what we've already heard from the MLS perspective is, this is about bad fields or bad stadiums or bad soccer. MLS has been playing bad soccer on bad fields and bad stadiums since its inception in 1996. So it's surely not that. And this other excuse that's cropping up about fixture congestion is especially rich for a league that invented Leagues Cup, Herc, and asked LAFC, again, in a league with salary cap restrictions, so you can't build out your roster to play, 53 games this year? So the only reasons, Herc, that this is happening are, one, the obvious one, money, right? That's always at the root of all evil. But beyond that is control, right? MLS wants to control everything in American soccer. And if MLS doesn't control it, Major League Soccer would rather that thing just not exist, okay? And that brings me to the guy in charge of all this, and that's Don Garber, who is, yes, MLS commissioner, Herc. But it's important to point out here, he also serves a role on the board of directors of U.S. Soccer. And at this point, I'm not sure how much longer that can continue, right? Because subjectively, we can make the argument that Don Garber, via this move with MLS, is acting against the greater good for American soccer, right? And a person acting against the greater good of American soccer should not be, Herc, on the board of directors of the U.S. Soccer Federation. But a person concretely, objectively, specifically acting against an asset of U.S. soccer cannot also then sit on the board of directors of U.S. soccer. The conflicts of interest around Don Garber's presence on the board of directors have been coming to a head for a while. This is the head. And somebody's going to have to make a move here. It's either going to be Don Garber, out of decency, recusing himself from this position, or the Federation, Herc, is going to have to step up. And that brings me to kind of my last point on this, or maybe the most important point. For years and years, Herc, the U.S. Soccer Federation did Major League Soccer's bidding, often at the expense of everybody else in American soccer. And the proof of that is the dozens of leagues, men and women, the hundreds of clubs, men and women, including Rio Grande Valley, who today is out of business, that have gone out of business since MLS came into business in 1996. And for all that time, U.S. Soccer sat by and did nothing. And the why behind that is very obvious, Herc, and you know it well. It's because through a marketing contract that not a lot of people know about, not a lot of people talked about, U.S. Soccer was getting its bills paid, in effect, by Major League Soccer. So, of course, you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you. Well, that contract ended a couple years ago. So now this federation, which for a long time was only independent in theory and not in practice, is now really, truly independent and needs to take a stand. And for me, the stand is clear. You cannot let MLS Next Pro teams into this tournament. And it's time for U.S. Soccer to seriously consider stripping MLS of its Division I status. You cannot be a Division I league, Herc, if you don't want to compete. And that's the bottom line with Major League Soccer. They don't want to compete. They're scared of competition. It's why they're pulling out of the Open Cup. And it's why anytime you hear about promotion relegation or anytime anybody brings up an open system, MLS folks run for the hills. They're scared of competition because they don't want to be exposed. And that's the bottom line, Herc, of why they're leaving the Open Cup.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Don Garber thing, because people love to hate on Don Garber, but Don Garber is essentially Commissioner Goodell, Roger Goodell, and Roger Goodell doesn't make decisions. He pretty much is a voice for the owners, so he's that shield for ownership. But when it comes to being part of the board of directors in U.S. Soccer, yeah, that's directly on him, and you're right, he needs to recuse himself from that. I'm very happy you brought that up, and I agree. It'd be one thing to see MLS compete and compete well, but they've not done it. The only thing I could think of that would be cool in the meantime is seeing a USL team potentially win this tournament and get the CONCACAF Champions Cup position and recognition that I think they deserve.
Yes, that would be a cool silver lining, but very much a silver lining to all this. Just very quickly on the point you brought up about the rules, the Pro League standards state, according to U.S. Soccer, that to be eligible to be a Division I team, you have to play in all federation events, which you are eligible for. The Open Cup is that. So it's right there in the rule book. If U.S. Soccer wants to grow a spine and take a stand against Major League Soccer, who is working against the whole of American soccer,